White South Africans that were pretty much the only people Donald Trump has let into the country since his administration took over are returning home.
So the South Africans are finding out that the grass is not greener on the other side.
The only people Trump let in as refugees are now fleeing America because of him. Do you remember when Trump granted refugee status to white South Africans called Afrikaners because he claimed that they were facing racial genocide by black South Africans? Well, now those same people are deciding to flee the United States to go back to South Africa because...
So wait, don't screw it. Now, people are calling on black Americans for aid. After everything, after all the history, after all the silence, now the calling is upon come stand with us, come fight with us, come support us. That's interesting because timing says a lot. But before I say anything else, let's go watch some of these clips so that you can have more connection to it. You need to hear it for yourself because the tone, the urgency, it tells you everything. So without wasting much time, let us watch those clips together.
I personally don't believe South Africa should take back any of the white Afrikaners that left South Africa due to the genocide of the white farmers that just simply didn't exist.
A growing number of South Africans returning home from abroad. This comes as some citizens consider leaving under a refugee program that was introduced by the United States administration of Donald Trump following unfounded claims of a so-called white genocide in the country.
Is there a white genocide in South Africa?
No, there's no sign of it, never has been. In fact, whites are economically the strongest group. They benefited from democracy more than anybody else. 64% of all boardrooms in South Africa are still white. The average income of white South Africans are vastly higher than black South Africans. No, they have better schools, they have better education, they have private health care. This is the land of milk and honey if you're white.
Has any land been expropriated in South Africa without compensation since the first all-race election in this country?
I'm not aware of anyone. Not a single farm that I'm aware of was expropriated without compensation since 1994.
So how do we interpret President Trump's executive order?
It is possible that South Africa has offended the United States with his policy on the Palestinians, and it could be that with his policy on Russia, the ambiguities of those policies, and its relationship with the Chinese. It could be. I think that does play a role. But there was something very, very sensitive that was touched upon. And in South Africa, right-wing groups, so-called civil society groups, we know that they have access to the Trump administration because they claim that. And if you listen to what Trump has said, it corresponds exactly with the genocide narrative that they sell and that they market, and that whites are victims of the democratic system and the constitution in South African legislation. So there's an overlay, there's an immediate overlay, it's an unquestionable overlay between what Trump has said and these right-wing groups have said. So I'm afraid I have to believe them when they say they have direct access to the Trump administration, and we see it in what Trump has been doing.
South Africa's white population has rejected President Donald Trump's offer to resettle them as refugees in the United States after Pretoria recently enacted the expropriation law. On Friday, February 7th, President Trump signed an executive order cutting U.S. aid to South Africa, citing the expropriation law, which he says targets the whites in South Africa.
The only people Trump let in as refugees are now fleeing America because of him. Do you remember when Trump granted refugee status to white South Africans called Afrikaners because he claimed that they were facing racial genocide by black South Africans? Well, now those same people are deciding to flee the United States to go back to South Africa because they think Trump's America is too expensive and too violent. Like Andrew Vitch, who originally left South Africa after being held up at gunpoint in his car, but now he feels that America is far more violent. Quote, "People are being shot in broad daylight. American citizens are being shot and killed. I don't want to live in a place..."
The fact that I have to speak on this is very upsetting, but I do feel the obligation to speak on it as someone with a platform. About a year ago, my husband and I were interviewed for a Huisgenoot article, which is an Afrikaans magazine. They interviewed us about our love story. Basically, the article just explains how fast we fell in love and how we met. That's it. I don't care about the comments saying that we got married too fast, and if you think I'm going to get divorced because I fell in love with my husband in 2 days, that's on you. What I do
The white South African refugees Trump granted asylum to are returning back to South Africa because they are struggling financially here in the U.S. I'm Major League, and this is news you need to know.
The administration is prioritizing white South Africans for admission, a group it says faces persecution at home, something the South African government disputes. Well, now an investigation from the Free Press shows many of those white South Africans, also known as Afrikaners, are barely scraping by because of what they say are
Look, I'm about to not mind my business, but I don't care. I am so enjoying this beef. I don't know what happened. I don't know why y'all Americans went to do that to yourselves. But now the war between Africans and Americans right now, what is going on? Why did you guys go do that to yourselves? Why did you guys... Yo, these Africans are coming for y'all. Obviously, I'm not American. I'm Canadian.
And one more thing for my black South Africans. Do y'all white South Africans treat y'all the same as our white Americans treat us black Americans? What do I mean by this, right? Now, when you go into an elevator or a lift with a white person in America, they going to hold their bag close because they don't want you to steal their bag. You know, they think a lot of us be stealing this shit. Also, when you say hello, white person, or hello, they just kind of give you they don't even say hi back. They just, do white South Africans be doing that too? You know, our white Americans, they known for not really putting seasoning in their food, raisins in the potato salad. Do y'all?
And while I'm on the topic, if y'all so worried about being segregated from everybody else, what do you want? Because last time I checked, y'all want y'all own everything. Y'all want black shows, black movies, black radio, black music, black neighborhoods, black churches, black grocery stores, black-owned restaurants where you got to pay $15 just to sit down at the table, and a 22% gratuity no matter how many people sitting at the table eating, no matter how good or bad the service was. Y'all want all black everything anyway, but then y'all want to cry about segregation. Make it make sense. What do you...
What they wanted was a regime change. The response of them saying that they don't want to go to the US, the culture cannot survive outside of South Africa. They have to stay here. This is unsurprising. The response is unsurprising. I think anyone that's been paying attention is absolutely not surprised by this response, because we know that what they wanted when they were peddling those lies was not...
Donald Trump started pushing this narrative that white South Africans were super oppressed and were being violently attacked, and their farms were being robbed and taken over by black people. And because he said that, he needed people to buy into his political publicity stunt. And so he told white Africans that they could move to the United States and become citizens. And he did just that. He brought thousands over. These people denounced their South African.
Do you guys remember in May of last year when Donald Trump announced that he was going to be bringing in white South Africans as refugees? Because he loudly claimed in front of South Africa's president and his white cabinet members that white people in South Africa were being genocided. In case you don't remember, here is a short clip of somebody in Trump's administration welcoming the South Africans, the white South Africans, and saying that they have good seeds which will grow in the United States.
Over the years, and I am sure...
Oh, well, breaking fuck the news. We are not pawns. Prominent white South Africans hit back at Trump's claims that they are being killed and slaughtered. In an open letter, they rejected the narrative that they were the victims of racial persecution and even genocide, saying that it was not only misleading but dangerous. A group of more than 40 prominent white South Africans have hit back at Donald Trump's claims that they are being slaughtered, telling the president that they are not pawns in America's culture wars. In an open letter, the group, which included political analysts, economists, lawyers, journalists, religious...
All right, let's talk about this, because this situation is layered. It's not just about politics. It's not just about headlines. It's history meeting the present. Let's be real for a second. When you hear that some white South Africans are now appealing to black Americans, asking for support, asking for solidarity, asking for a voice that matters. That's not a small moment. That's a shift. Because for a long time, global conversation around power, race, and influence have followed a certain pattern and allow and now the direction of the call is changing. The weight of history can't be ignored. You can't talk that you can't talk about South Africa without acknowledging its past, a system where power, land, and opportunity were not equally shared for generations. And while times have changed in many ways, history doesn't just disappear. So, when appeals are being made today, people are not just hearing the word, they are hearing history behind them. Why Black Americans are being called on? Now, this is where it gets interesting. Why Black Americans? Why not someone else? Why? Why particularly must it be a Black American to come to your aid and help? Because globally, Black Americans hold a unique position like cultural influence, political voice, global visibility. When they speak, people listen. When they move, system feel it. So this isn't random. This is strategic. The reality of begging for support. Let's not sugarcoat it. When people say begging, what they are really describing is urgency. It's a moment where people feel like you need help fast. And that's urgency for you. It changes how people communicate. You hear it in the tone, you see it in the request. It's no longer distance, it's direct. But here is the hard question, and this is where things get real. When support is requested, people naturally ask, where was that same energy before? That's not bitterness, that's memory. Because support and solidarity are strongest when they are consistent, not just when they are needed. Let me say this clearly. This moment is not just about who is asking for help. It's about how people respond to the request, because there are two ways to look at this. One side one side sees it as a chance to build bridge. Another side sees it as a moment that raises tough, uncomfortable questions, and both reactions, they are real. People are not just reacting to the present, they are reacting to everything that came before it. At the end of the day, the situation is bigger than one headline. It is power, memory, and how people. This situation is bigger than one headline. It is about power, memory, and how people choose to stand with each other in difficult moments. Because when the rules start to shift, everybody starts paying closer attention. So let me ask you, if you were in that position, would you respond to that call for support? Or would you step back and question it? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let's have a real conversation about it. And if you want more breakdown like this, where you go deeper than the headlines and talk about what is really going on, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, because this conversation is just getting better. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.